Welcome to a new edition of DIY World Improvement. I'm your host, Catherine Carlozzi. Nearly 500,000 children in this country are living in foster care right now. On average, they'll remain in the system for about 2 years, during which time they may live in multiple homes or institutions or both. They may be moved without much warning and nothing more than a paper bag for their belongings. Some 20,000 of them will age out of the system this year when they turn 18, and many of them won't have a support structure. There is someone who would like to be a mother to all of them, but since she can't, she started an organization called One Simple Wish to make their lives a little better. Danielle Gletow is a foster adoptive parent and a former marketing professional from the Trenton area. Since 2008, the nonprofit she founded has granted more than 4,000 wishes and brightened the lives of some 20,000 foster children and vulnerable families in 35 states. Danielle, who was recently named a CNN Hero, would call that a good start. Danielle's in the studio with us today, and with her is a young man named Ronald Hennig, who has come through the foster care system and who's been involved with One Simple Wish for several years. Welcome, both of you, to DIY World Improvement.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Danielle, during one of our conversations, you told me that you first had the idea of starting a nonprofit that would address the needs of foster kids about 14 years ago. That's a long gestation period because you didn't start One Simple Wish until 2008. Talk about the thought process that led you to create it.
So I was always very interested in children's rights and issues that were impacting children, even as a young person in my early 20s. However, I wasn't as familiar with the foster care system. So 14 years ago, I did have an idea that I wanted to start a not-for-profit that made it simple for people to give back very directly to a person in need. I didn't necessarily know at that point that it was foster children that I wanted to focus on. It wasn't until I became a foster parent myself in 2006, and I learned about the system, and I met a lot of the children and met the caseworkers and met other caregivers and people that were working with this population of kids, that it really clicked for me that this is how I wanted to build the organization, focusing on children in foster care.
Now, wishes, filling the wishes of foster kids is the core of what you do. So let's talk about that and how it works.
Yeah, the idea behind our organization is that we want to open up this conversation. We want more people to be talking about foster care and ways that we can improve the system. We don't believe that this is an issue that is just for policymakers or advocates or foster parents or caseworkers or industry professionals. We feel like as a society, it's our responsibility, all of us, to support these children in every way we can. We've taken these children out of their homes and we've said, we can do a better job of raising you. We can take care of you better than you're being taken care of. And so we feel like at One Simple Wish, that is the obligation of all of society. So we created the Wish Granting Program as a really simple way to connect people with individual kids. So a lot of times when you hear about foster care, you hear about the statistics, the numbers that you mentioned at the intro, 20,000 kids aging out of care, nearly 500,000 in care. So we talk about these things in very broad numbers. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily talk about the individual stories like Ronald's case or, the countless other kids that we have dealt with since we started. And what our WISH program allows caseworkers and the kids to do is to really share the uniqueness of each situation and give people a very simple and direct way to help that child. So it isn't about solving the issue, this broad issue. It's about helping one child at a time. And that's really how we feel you all become part of the solution. So the WISH program is exactly that. The WISH program is children who submit wishes. It could be through a caseworker, it could be through a program manager, it could be through a staff member at a group home. These professionals submit wishes on behalf of the kids, and most of them are for very basic things that most of us would consider a common expectation in childhood. So a lot of us, as we were growing up, had a bike, we had a skateboard, we were able to take gymnastics class. When it was prom time, someone took us to get our dress, we got our class ring, we bought our yearbook, on and on and on. All of these things that we consider almost a rite of passage as a child elude a lot of the children that are in care. So the wishes that they post are those things. They're kind of one step above basic needs like food and clothing, and a little bit more of the niceties that make up childhood memories.
You mentioned some of the things that the kids wish for, and I've trolled through the wishes and looked at them myself. Sometimes it's a big thing, though. Sometimes it may be music lessons or dancing lessons or having a relative come to a graduation ceremony or something. So those are a little more expensive than your usual wishes, which look like they range from I'd say maybe $50 to $250. How do you deal with those big wishes?
The beauty of our site is that all of the wishes are under $500. When we do start getting upwards of $250, $500, what we'll do is we will break down the wish into manageable chunks. So we might take a wish, for example, for a young lady who was graduating from basic training in the Army, and she wanted to have her caseworker there. That was really the only family that she had. The caseworker couldn't afford to fly to South Carolina. The program which she worked with didn't have that in their budget, so they made that wish, and I believe it was about $700. And what we did was we put up a wish page, and we allow people to sort of chip away at that wish. So when it comes to larger wishes, we do have individuals who will grant a $500 wish, but most of the time those wishes are granted by people kind of pooling their resources together and making them happen.
Do you ever go to corporations?
Yes, very often. We have some great corporate partners that have done wish parties for us, or they put wish gardens in their office, and it's a very visual representation of what you see online. We physically put together this really beautiful garden that will represent a wish or several wishes with monetary values in it, and the employees can again chip away at that main amount by donating $10, $5, $20 and make wishes come true that way. So that's been another really helpful resource for us.
So let's say I decide to fulfill somebody's wish, and let's say it's for something physical like a bicycle. What happens after I click the button and say I'm going to fill that wish? Who actually takes care of sourcing all these things and seeing that they get delivered to the child?
That's all done in our office. We have right now about 3 part-time staff who pretty much work full-time, but we have part-time paid staff. And what happens is when a donor clicks donate or grant a wish, I should say, they then donate the money, the value of that wish. So it will be displayed on the screen that this bicycle is $65. They then make a donation for $65. A notification email comes through our system that a wish has been granted. And Sarah, who's our fabulous program manager, she'll get that notice, and she then knows she has $65 to buy a bike for this child. The beauty of our program is that it isn't just, okay, what bike can we get? Any bike. We will speak with the caseworker, and we will try to find out what colors does this young person like? What style of bike do they want? Because again, this is really about imagining your own childhood, and you got to go to your parents and say, when you were in Toys R Us or Walmart, I
want a red bike.
Right. Or look at that Hello Kitty bike, Mommy. I love Hello Kitty. So we really want to give these children as close to that experience as we can. So it isn't as simple as just, okay, well, Sarah goes online and buys it. She'll work with the caseworker, they'll find the right bike, and then we will make the purchase online, have it shipped directly to the case manager so that they can deliver it to the child. So we're almost this invisible source. This is not about credit. This isn't about, hey, Once a Bush really wants to make sure we get a pat on the back for this. This is about making it come true for that child, and we say, however you want to explain how this came to happen, you know the child best. You go ahead and you say whatever you want.
Right. Is there ever contact between the donor and the recipient?
Not direct contact. I shouldn't say that, because Ronald recently connected with one of our donors, but typically no. We really do protect the privacy of the children. I mean, we all have to remember that these are children who are in vulnerable situations. We want to be very mindful of that. We never give out the children's personal information. And even with the donors, we also want to maintain their privacy. We do allow the donors an area on our site when they grant a wish to post a message to the child. We then share that message with the caseworker. The caseworker will share it with the child. And if we receive a special thank you letter from the child, we will then pass that on to the donor. So we still act as that bridge between the child and the donor.
I would think that Christmas is your biggest time of year, but what impact does something like Hurricane Sandy have on your whole ebb and flow of granting wishes?
Yeah, this year after Hurricane Sandy, we had about 5 times the number of requests that we normally have over the holidays, because since we are based in New Jersey, we opened up our supportive services to victims of Hurricane Sandy as well. In the population we serve is primarily foster children, but we also include vulnerable families. And that could be people who are impacted by things like domestic violence or by a natural disaster. So when Hurricane Sandy hit, we let the public know, we're also here as a resource. We have a lot of great connections. Let's work together and get as many people, a nice Christmas as we can. So Christmas is always our biggest time of year. It's the time most people want to give back or are thinking about giving back. So we're certainly busier when it comes to donations. But lately, with the press coverage we've been having, we've actually had a pretty steady flow of wishes coming in and wishes being granted. It's been pretty incredible. Since NBC and CNN, we've just, the organization has kind of taken off in just this fantastic direction where there are so many people wanting to support us, and we love that.
Now, May is National Foster Care Awareness Month, and last May, we're approaching May, you had what you called your 30-30-30 initiative. What do all those 30 stand for?
Yeah, we took on this really crazy challenge of traveling 30 cities in 30 days to grant 30 wishes, 30 special wishes to children throughout the country in foster care. The idea was we would kind of share the fact that these stories of foster care and how it impacts the lives of children are very similar no matter where you are in our country, whether you're in Alabama or you're in New Jersey or you're in Colorado. And so we wanted to travel to multiple states and multiple cities and focus on how our program benefits children nationwide. And we really wanted to highlight some of the more exceptional stories of kids who had really thrived despite some incredible challenges. And so we hopped in an RV, myself and my two daughters, who were 3 and 4 at the time, and we had our program staff as well as a group of guys out from California who have another not-for-profit where they focus on working with foster kids. And we traveled to 19 states in 30 days, 30 cities, 5,700 miles. It was crazy.
I looked at the slides.
Yeah,
it looked like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and we took wonderful pictures. And I think that what we found above all else is that every child who had a positive outcome or was working towards a positive outcome had this really intricate, crazy, beautiful mix of people that were supporting them, that the word family was being defined in a very non-traditional way. They had so many different sources of support, and it was really about this village that was being created around them. So the tour was at times heartbreaking, but most of the time really uplifting, because we got to meet so many more people like us who feel like we all need to band together and take care of these children. These aren't lost children. These aren't damaged children. They're just kids, and they need a lot of love and support, like all kids do. And all of us who are out there trying to do that need to do it together.
Wish granting is just one of the things that you do. I know that you have other initiatives. I know right now is prom project time with proms coming up. You have the Ohana Project and Wish to Work. Talk a little bit about each of those.
Yeah, this is prom time, which is one of the most fun times a year at One Simple Wish, because we open up a pop-up shop every year. This is the 4th year we're doing it. We'll serve about 500 girls this year, and we have gently worn and brand new prom dresses and cocktail dresses. The girls can come in with a voucher. Any girls who are part of any of our community partner programs, which there's over 150 in the state of New Jersey and about 350 partners nationwide. These girls get a voucher. They come into the shop and they can pick out any dress. Everything's free. They get shoes, a dress, jewelry. We do makeup demonstrations. We always have refreshments, and it's set up like a boutique, so it's a really beautiful shopping experience. So that's kicking off actually on Saturday, so we're gearing up for our grand opening. It's in Ewing, on Scotch Road in Ewing. Then our Ohana Project. This is an ongoing project. Right now we do it in New Jersey and Colorado. We have personal care items, brand new clothing, brand new toys, basic needs that are available to caseworkers, especially in the state of New Jersey, 24/7, so that whenever a child is entering foster care or being moved from place to place, or if they have aged out and are on their own or in a transitional living environment, they have access to basic needs. So they can come in and they can make up a care kit of shampoos, conditioners, body wash, pillow pets, whatever they need to make that transition just a little bit more comfortable for the child or for the young adult. And that project started last year, really out of the need that we heard from not only our caseworkers, but from our foster parents, that kids were coming to them and not having all of the necessities. And a lot of times the kids arrive at night. And my husband and I had experienced this as well when we were first fostering, that the caseworkers do the best they can to kind of grab whatever's possible in the home, but they don't always have everything they need. So the Ohana Project provides that support. And then the Wish to Work program, that started also last year, and this year got a wonderful grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to pilot Medley internships, where we invite 4 young people ages 16 to 22 to participate in 4 paid internships in 4 different industries. They do 2 weeks weeks at each industry, and they get a real taste of what each of these jobs is about. They're assigned a mentor, they're followed very closely, they receive payment, and there's 2 interactive seminars, one on financial health and wellness and the other one on well-being that we hold as well, one in April and one in June. And that program is more geared towards our older youth who are probably going to age out of the system without finding a permanent family.
Ronald, talk about how you came to One Simple Wish. I know that you've sort of been on both sides of it. You've been a beneficiary of it, and I know that you're deeply involved in it.
Yeah.
How did you come there?
Well, I've been in and out of foster care since I've been 13. Well, I've moved from place to place since I've been 13. And I lived in a residential placement about 4 years ago, I think it was. And we were sort of forced to go and do all of these programs. A lot of times the people didn't care. They were just trying to do good for us. But in reality, the services that were provided were just annoying and weren't very personal or useful. So we went to this aging out program at One Simple Wish when it was really small. And it was run by about, 5 volunteers, and Danielle was there. And we were learning all of these professional job skills and resume building skills and interviewing skills, which are really helpful, I found. And I think what really made me stick with One Simple Wish is the fact that it was such a small personal team, and that everyone was really so dedicated to the mission and so dedicated to getting involved and talking to everyone who was there. I've never, in my experience in foster care, you get to see a lot of people who are paid to really take care of you and who don't really have a personal interest. But when I went to One Simple Wish as a recipient of their services, it was amazing how much they actually cared, how much the volunteers wanted to get involved and wanted to help. And that really inspired me to come back and try to volunteer again. And I came, and I've been volunteering since.
Well, you also had a wish.
I did.
At least one wish at one point. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, a few years ago, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I had a family member who died, unfortunately, and I really wanted to go to their funeral, but I couldn't afford a suit. Everyone else there would have been in a suit, and I didn't really want to feel isolated or anything like that. So I made a request through my caseworker, actually, through DIFUS, and it got held up, and they wanted to wait 2 months to give me the payment, and it wasn't even the entire payment, and it was just ridiculous, and I had no one available to give me that money that I needed. So I asked One Simple Wish, and it was granted within a week and a half, which I know isn't typical, but sometimes it does happen. And I was just amazed that someone really just looked through the website, found my name, looked at my description, and said, you know what, Ronald really deserves this suit, because someone either empathized with me or just understood how important that was to me. So once the wish was granted, Danielle herself took me out to get fitted for the suit, and that was probably one of the most empowering experiences I've ever had in my life, because I was measured. I got to pick out my belt, and I got to pick out my shoes, and that was just so cool to me. I've never done anything like that.
I bet you still have that suit.
I do.
I know that you have aged out of the system, or you're getting close to it. You're approaching 18. And on the way in, we talked about your plans for the future. What are they?
Well, hopefully I'll be going to NYU or Villanova, probably NYU, to study marketing, and which is what Danielle studied, and I would love to work with nonprofits that support foster children. I don't think I have the inner strength to start my own, because I've seen what Danielle goes through, but I would love to support already existing nonprofits which try to support foster children. That's really a dream of mine.
Well, and that gives me the perfect segue, because one of the things that interested me when Danielle and I first began to talk is the fact that you are a former marketing executive, and I'm always interested in how communications professionals, since I'm one myself, translate that to what they're doing in the DIY World Improvement world. And you and I talked about this whole thing of using social media, crowdsourcing, and things like that to fund operations like yours. You had some really interesting thoughts on that subject.
Yeah, I think that, this is definitely a great time to be part of the nonprofit world because of social media. You have a lot more ways to reach out to people and share your mission and to tell them about the work that you're doing. On the other hand, there's some things going on, with contests and that I'm not a huge fan of. I was a marketing professional for over 10 years in interactive marketing, and I was always a big proponent of multi-channel marketing, of ensuring that if you are doing something online, online, you're tying it to your offline efforts, and counseled all of our clients on doing that. What's happening that's concerning me a bit is that corporations and other entities just want to utilize nonprofits and cause marketing as a way, obviously, to attract consumers and promote their message. And I'm not saying it's not a good thing. We want everybody doing good work. We want companies doing good work. We want individuals doing good work. But I feel like there is a certain point where there is a line that we have to be careful we don't cross, and that's in competing with each other. There are a lot of not-for-profits out there serving the foster care community, and I would say One Simple Wish works beautifully with them. We are really about how do we get the best possible solution for each individual child. We are not about winning in any sense of the word, and that's heartfelt. That is an honest, true statement. Of course, everybody likes media attention, especially for their organization, because it helps you to get funding. But I think that, sometimes we have to look at what cost are we getting the attention. So what's great about OSW is that we support so many other not-for-profits in their beautiful efforts to support kids in care. So if the funding is coming to us, it inevitably is going directly to the kids. We don't have a big overhead. We don't have a huge staff. Like Ronald said, everybody involved in our organization is really personally involved. So it's not that we won't participate in a contest. I don't want to say that now and then in a couple of months you see us asking for your votes. What I do think is that we're really mindful to say to people, yeah, please vote for us, but vote for us because you want us to win, not because you think we're better. I mean, it just seems kind of silly that nonprofits wouldn't pool their resources together. That's Synergy. What we really want to do, right? Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've only got a minute. If you could summarize in one or two sentences, where do you want to see this go? What's your wish for One Simple Wish?
I would love to see One Simple Wish be well known enough that every foster child across our country knows we're a resource for them. Because I think that if we can get every child in foster care or who's aged out of care to know that we're here, they can tell their caseworkers can contact us, and we can help support them every step of the way. And I think we need to do that by continuing to spread our message online, continuing to do shows like this and, television media as well, and make sure that all of these kids know that someone is there for them. At the end of the day, first things first, I'm a mom, and it breaks my heart to think that there are children out there who don't think somebody loves them, and I want them to know that we love them. And it might sound cheesy, but it's true. Our team really wants to take care of kids, and I think that, becoming a mom completely changed my life for the better, and I'm happy to be that mom to every child that needs me, and I hope that every kid who is struggling right now knows that they can turn to us. They can contact us directly. We will reach out to their caseworkers for them. We are just a really strong, passionate team who believes that we've got to work together.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to come all the way up here to Bloomfield College. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. You can find more information at onesimplewish.org, and you'll find past editions of this show on the YouTube channel. Starting a nonprofit that would address the needs of foster kids about 14 years ago. That's a long gestation period because you didn't start One Simple Wish until 2008. Talk about the thought process that led you to create it.
So I was always very interested in children's rights and issues that were impacting children, even as a young person in my early 20s. However, I wasn't as familiar with the foster care system. So 14 years ago, I did have an idea that I wanted to start a not-for-profit.
Welcome to a new edition of DIY World Improvement. I'm your host, Catherine Carlozzi. Nearly 500,000 children in this country are living in foster care right now. On average, they'll remain in the system for about 2 years, during which time they may live in multiple homes or institutions or both. They may be moved without much warning and brighten the lives of some 20,000 foster children and vulnerable families in 35 states. Danielle, who was recently named a CNN Hero, would call that a good start. Danielle's in the studio with us today, and with her is a young man named Ronald Hennig, who has come through the foster care system and who's been involved with One Simple Wish for several years. Welcome, both of you, to DIY World Improvement.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Danielle, during one of our conversations, you told me that you first had the idea of starting and nothing more than a paper bag for their belongings. Some 20,000 of them will age out of the system this year when they turn 18, and many of them won't have a support structure. There is someone who would like to be a mother to all of them, but since she can't, she started an organization called One Simple Wish to make their lives a little better. Danielle Gletow is a foster adoptive parent and a former marketing professional from the Trenton area. Since 2008, the nonprofit she founded has granted more than 4,000 wishes.
That made it simple for people to give back very directly to a person in need. I didn't necessarily know at that point that it was foster children that I wanted to focus on. It wasn't until I became a foster parent myself in 2006, and I learned about the system, and I met a lot of the children and met the caseworkers and met other caregivers and people that were working with this population of kids, that it really clicked for me that this is how I wanted to